talk about
So
some
why
stuff.
the fuck would you?
Things.
I mean,
I
seriously.
mean, it's a moral thing whether we should or not continue with the show.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Do people really need more of that?
They do.
I don't know.
Everybody always needs another goat. I mean,
I say we just stop the show now, call it good. We'll come back next Monday, have a party
with 3 goats.
All right,
it'll be a 3-goat party.
And out. Welcome everybody to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with my co-hostesses Chuck Manley and Scott. I'm a French flute. I don't know why. Moon. And, and tonight we are talking with fantasy author Ryan Kirk. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This is the part where he goes, why am I here? These people.
What have I gotten myself into?
Not the show I signed up for. Welcome, everybody in the live chat that are hanging out. All the usuals. Jay Clifton's got his ice cream, which is not a bonus question tonight, if you were wondering. Hi, Rick. And Silent Wolf. The ultimate Silent Wolf is in there. A whole bunch of people. That's what I like about the live chat. I put a link up.
Everybody.
And everybody was in the live chat like an hour before the show started. I don't even know what happens in there before we start.
There's a lot of shenanigans. It's pretty
ridiculous.
It's pretty rough.
We'll talk about a little bit about what we have going on this week, and then we'll jump into the interview. Scott, you've been riding around in a bike all day. So you want to talk about that?
I did. So I took this bike class because I thought it'd be a great idea for work. So I get paid to, ride a bike around, and kind of a nice change of pace. Weather's not too bad. I didn't realize that you have to intentionally fall off the bike. So we did some of that. You ever see me? So you ride up and then stop and then just fall over and then just do that over and over again. So that was interesting. I've done that before.
Well, that's how I ride a bike anyway. So
I know we got for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. Got up real early, did some writing and revising, working on Reaper 5, also working on my Brothers in Arms or my Order of the Centurion book. So trying to finish that up and wrangling kids all summer. Last week it was like 1,000,000 trillion degrees, and now it's about 80. It's good stuff. And I turned my desk. I turned my desk. So I ordered pictures. I ordered book covers so I can be like Josh, except different book covers.
Honestly, I just think you just need to angle it so we can see your sump pump. The whole show. I just want to look at Scott's sump pump. If you can do that,
everybody needs a little bit more sump. Of course, you also get my music stand, which doubles as a boom mic. So
true.
Good stuff.
Chuck, what have you been up to, man?
Still trying to get my house unpacked. You know how that goes, but got a little work done on my Jack Dark Urban Fantasy series. A little bit of work done on some Brace Cordova stuff. And then, just shuttling the kids around to all their various shindigs and doings. And like Scott there, I'm going to get some book cover pictures to like frame me out here, right behind me there, because everybody wants to be like Josh.
That's true.
That's true.
That's why we're here. I get literally no emails about that all the time about people wanting to be like
negative emails.
Negative emails. I say I want to be like
you're too awesome to approach, man. You intimidate everyone. That's what it is.
How can I be less like you? Can you?
That's what you need to tell yourself all the time in the mirror.
I think what I'm going to do for Vegas this year is I'm going to shave my head so I can look like Scott, but then grow out my goatee so I can look like Chuck. And then, and then every time I walk around, they'll be like, "Who's that guy?" I've never known.
It'd be a Chuck.
Yeah,
Chuck. Chuck.
Chuck.
The Chuck with 2 T's.
It's a manly moon.
That's what it is. A manly moon.
It is.
I did something very fun today. I switched up my writing schedule a little bit. I've been having some problems with all the chillins at home. And so I decided that when the daycare got here today, I would leave and go to basically a coffee shop and write all day. And it worked out perfectly. Got about 3,000 words on Valor 2 and worked out some plot lines. This is going to give some people fits in the chat. So, last week we talked about deleting characters out of whole manuscripts and like throwing out chapters and all
throwing out a whole book.
Yeah.
So a whole book over.
I had a plot point today where I was trying to work it out, and so I stopped typing right in the middle of the scene. I was like, "Why am I writing this scene?" And I stopped, pushed the computer away, and got my pad and paper out and started working on it, and came to the conclusion that I did not need this character and I couldn't use her. Realistically, could not use this character, and so I was like, "Okay, now what?" Well, I just take her out of the book. So she already had 3 chapters written. Had a whole arc planned for her. She's gone. No more. Bye. See you later. And then I worked out a way to bring Fisher and Sheridan, 2 of the main characters, together. That I was having trouble kind of syncing them up. No, Lauren, I didn't kill her. I just extra. It's very, very distinct.
She got voted off the island.
Yeah, she got voted
You
off.
are the weakest link.
Goodbye. So that was good. That was fun. It was very nice not to be in the house hearing the pack of elephants run upstairs. And I got to have some coffee all day, and now I'm like shaking.
Spend $35.
Yeah.
on coffee.
I had good breakfast though. Ryan, since you're the guest of honor, you get to go last on the what have we been up to this week? Have you been up to anything interesting or fun?
You know, I am noticing some trends here involving biking, children, and trying to get writing done.
Indeed. Indeed.
No, actually surprisingly similar to many of you. This morning I spent doing some writing, doing some work, and then, yeah, once my little daughter woke up, we biked all over town, visited a bunch of playgrounds, and that has been most of my day since then.
Nice. Yes, we like to start trends on the show. So next week we're gonna do an all bike episode where we're all gonna be riding bikes around.
Oh my God.
I did not consider the option of falling down at every intersection that I stopped at, though. So
Yeah.
I don't think I've been on a bike in 30 years.
Well, you better get psyched up, Chuck, because that's what we're doing next week.
It's going to be Bike Vegas. That's what we're doing, Bike Vegas.
Oh
We'll
my
go out
God.
there. We had to run over tennis balls and over little cones and like go really super slow. And that's the hard part.
At one point in your police career, do you get to a point where you're like, I am aggressively running over tennis balls to chase this, this suspect down on a bicycle?
It has to be done. Has to be done. Maybe
do it.
Yeah. Maybe it's like if you're chasing somebody and like they're like throwing bags of weed over their back like Mario, and you have to like do the rock dodge so you don't run over the evidence.
Dodge them.
And then you arrest them, and then you go back and see if the weed is still laying there.
This has to be one of the one of the episodes this year where you just watch the first 20 minutes and you're like, who the fuck are these guys?
Why
are they on the internet?
Nobody even listens anymore. So Ryan, you've been writing your first book. It looks like you published in 2015. Probably before that you started writing. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Yeah, accidentally, I think is the best answer. No, I have been writing for fun for as long as I can remember, since I was a little kid, writing horrible action scenes that were basically scene-by-scene rip-offs from the cartoons I was watching.
Sweet.
Nice. Like it.
And yeah, never really thought about doing much with it. I completed my first novel, which will never see the light of day, in 2013, thanks to NaNoWriMo.
God bless
NaNoWriMo. It was the first time that I'd ever heard about the concept of just writing for word count and not giving a shit about the quality of the words. And as simple as that idea seems nowadays, that like blew my mind in 2013.
Oh, it was new. Yeah. There's a whole book written about it.
Yeah, I read it by the founder of NaNoWriMo. And so then in 2014, I was like, okay, so I can write a novel. And sat down, started typing, ended up with a decent-sized epic fantasy novel, clocked in at about 150,000, I think. And was honestly just planning on sitting on it and not really doing anything with it. But then I also learned about the whole trend of independent publishing, and I was like, well, that sounds cool. I can spend some money, get a cover, get this edited, maybe earn like an extra $20 a month online and take my wife out to McDonald's. Yeah, and I just had one of those very happy accidents that, people like bought the book and they ended up liking it, and given enough time, enough people bought it that I was able to quit my job and go full time, and I've been doing that since then.
Well, I'm looking at your it looks like your first book. I could be wrong, but Nightblade,
early book.
Yep.
First book. Published August 3rd, 2015. And so that's 4 years, almost 4 years.
700 and some reviews,
and
or is it more?
700 some reviews, but more importantly, it's still under 30,000 in the Kindle store, which is amazing for a book that's 4 years old.
4 years old. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people look at 30,000, you're like, 30,000, but on a 4-year-old book, that's crazy.
That's
man.
fantastic.
That's awesome.
I want that.
I will always count my blessings. It is pretty awesome.
And you just released a brand new book, and of course, now I'm not looking at the Heart of Defiance. You released June 26th, it looks like. So talk a little bit about this book.
Yeah, so Heart of Defiance is it's a little bit weird. I was playing around, I was experimenting. It is a standalone book, but it is the second book in a world. And so there are some tie-ins with minor characters and things like that, but it could be enjoyed by itself. But one of the questions that I was really fascinated by is it's a fantasy kingdom which is governed by monasteries, where the power of magic is contained and taught and passed on, and really examining the power of absolute belief in those monasteries, and how that can be either a good thing or a really bad thing. And so I took the role of one of the characters who is a true believer and does some horrible things as a result of that.
Is that some of the spine of the magic system? In fantasy, magic system and setting is obviously hugely important.
Yeah, the magic system is at the beginning of the book is only usable by the monks, and they're starting to get hints that the magic is starting to seep out of their control, and people who are not being trained by them are starting to gain access to it, and they are panicking and doing some pretty horrible things to keep the magic under control.
Yeah, that's a conflict.
So you say that you're exploring the theme of absolute belief versus maybe not so absolute belief. When you say belief, are you talking about in the structure of the world and the government and the way they've set things up, or is belief a big part of accessing the actual magic?
Excellent question. No, actually, belief in the system that has been developed around the magic. So
it's more about the politics that you believe in, that people telling you this is the way it should be, and not questioning that, as opposed to like a clerical type magic system. Cool.
Yep.
I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Press on. I'm sorry.
You say that it's a second book in a world, but it's not technically a series. So what was the thought process behind that? Because you don't see a lot of fantasy stories that are in the same world that are not in a series.
It is based out of a pet peeve that I've been developing as a reader, and it is reading stories. I don't mind series by any means, but I am getting tired of series that do not wrap up any major arcs in their first books, particularly. I've read a handful that have done that lately, and this was my response, was to write books that can be read completely independently of one another. And if you read them in order, you get a slightly richer experience. But if you don't, you still have two standalone books that hopefully anybody could pick up and enjoy.
No, I like that
even
a lot
if
of
you
them.
leave even if you leave plot threads hanging, you should always have a satisfying conclusion at the end of any book, even if it's part of a series, you know, and sort of give the reader the option as opposed to some kind of hard cliffhanger where it's like, oh, if you want the rest of the story, come on, you know.
You know, I don't even mind. I don't
hear
even
what
mind
you're
the. I don't even mind the cliffhanger so long as, you know, like a major arc at least wraps up. And
Right.
yeah, I just feel like I've just run into a few lately where it's just been totally open ended. Like it was like a chapter break, but they forgot to keep going on. And
Almost
put
like
it
they
in the
wrote a
second book instead.
300,000 word book and chopped into 3 parts so they could have it.
Yeah. Exactly.
100,000 words on the dot looks like a good place to break the story. Right there.
Yeah, I've read a few of those books, and I understand what your grievance is on them. And I like series, but I also like books that wrap up. And if you can do that well and have, you know, even if it's just the story arc that ends well, you have a character achieve something, grow or learn, and then set something else up, you know, whether it's at the end or the beginning or the middle, you know, you can wrap up all that stuff, and whatever this other second thing is, carry that into the second book. I
Yep.
like that. Other than, like, for instance, one of my biggest pet peeves with Peter F. Hamilton's Pandora Star book is that it literally ends on a cliffhanger. Like, Ozzy is going over a waterfall and he goes, "Oh shit!" Yeah, he's going over a waterfall in space on a raft that he built, and he goes, "Oh shit!" And then the book's over, and I'm like, "What?" This book, and I listened to it on audiobook. It was like 45 hours long, and then he's literally going over the waterfall. Book's done, and I'm like, "But what the hell happened?" Yeah.
Fortunately
So
for me, by the time I had read that book, the next one was already done.
oh
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. The Judas Unchained was out. If it hadn't been out, holy crap. So that book is the universe is a 2-book universe. The Nightblades, though, you have several books written in that universe. It looks like at least several spinoff series.
Yeah, 2 complete trilogies.
And so talk about Nightblade a little bit and what went into that.
Yeah, so Nightblade was born out of you know, a pretty common fantasy idea, but the idea of a young man discovering that he is gifted with a magical ability. The way that I wanted to take it, though, was that this is an ability that has been exterminated from the land because of events in the past. The people have decided that the magic users are no longer trustworthy, and so they have been exterminated. And so for this young man named Yu, when he discovers that he has this power, it immediately makes him an outcast in society, and trying to find his way to both develop his power and decide whether or not he wants to embrace the abilities that he has or to abandon them and try and live a more normal life.
And how does that work out for him? Not very well.
You know, never very well. Things keep getting in the way. He meets a mentor, but the conflicts in his life lead the political leaders of the kingdom to realize that a magic user has been born and to use their considerable powers to hunt him down and essentially force him to choose his abilities just to defend himself. And then things spiral out of control from there.
As they do. So is it more of a low magic world that has magic in it, like Game of Thrones, or is it like a Stormlight where just everybody knows that the magic is there?
People are, I would say that it's actually very similar to the first book in Game of Thrones, where the magic is spoken about in terms of myth and legend, and maybe it's real and maybe it's not. And so when this young man discovers that he has this ability, he's astounded that the legends are actually true. But yes, in the land that he lives in, the ways of the magic have mostly been lost.
And is it so of I have a couple stories in mind where the magic has kind of gone away in the world, and we have to go through processes to bring it back. Is that kind of the point of the story, is to bring the magic in or back into the world, like through specific people, or is it all, like you said, it's kind of an accident? How is the story kind of progressed from there?
Yeah, the question that I've been really obsessed with the entire Nightblade world as it has developed into the 6 books that it is how does a society react when it really needs these magic users, these people with these powers, to maintain order and to protect its borders, but the people themselves distrust the magic and don't want the magic users in the kingdom. And so you have this inherent tension throughout the story. And I've loved exploring how that society makes do, balancing magic and their own fears.
Was that something that the magic system, is it lined out, like like is it a hard or soft magic system in the books, the way the characters understand it?
It's pretty soft. It is the ability to perceive more of the world than your average person. And so it's almost a heightened level of awareness where, dealing with a medieval society, you're able to sense a person's attack moments before it happens, giving you a tremendous advantage in a sword fight. It can also be used for healing or for discovering life. You can feel life forces from far away, but it is very soft, and they are continuing to rediscover knowledge that they used to have.
Very cool. What go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say, what are some of your influences as far as reading, and that kind of leads you to where you are now in writing?
Oh man, absolutely so many. There is, even though I do not do hard magic systems nearly as well, I will always bow down at the feet of Sanderson for some of the work that he has done.
Josh doing the dance of his
became
people
Josh's
over there.
best friend. Yeah,
Let me sing you the song of my people.
But another influence that probably more people maybe have not heard of is an author named Leanne Hearn, who wrote a series of books called Tales of the Atori, which was set in a fictionalized Japan. And the way that she blended kind of magical and historical fiction really, really inspired me. And I would highly recommend those books to people.
What about that type of writing did you find? Because I've read a couple books that the magic system, or even the setting, is more kind of like an Oriental based setting than more of a traditionally medieval Europe setting. Scott and I are reading a book right now called The Priory of the Orange Tree, which has a lot of
yeah, that is near the top of my to read list.
It's pretty good. It's not like tremendously like world breaking, but it's pretty good, and it's got a lot of Oriental themes, and like the dragons. The dragons in it don't only the oldest of the dragons have wings. A lot of the other dragons kind of fly with some magical face tentacles. I'm not really sure how that, but they look like the like those Chinese dragons
in
that
the parade things.
Yes.
Well, then they have ocean dragons and river dragons from from the mainland. I think only a couple of those. Yeah.
But I'm always really interested on people's takes about that, because the settings in the world can lead to a lot of cool things that a lot of people miss if they just focus on that medieval Europe area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I am an avid traveler, and so I've been to a lot of different places, and I know for a fact that you know, the culture and the geography of Japan is definitely in a lot of my works, but it all gets pulled in, and yeah, I love being able to travel and put the things that I see into my books.
What's your favorite thing that you've pulled from, like, say, Oriental culture, or Japanese or Chinese or Korean culture that you've put into your books?
You know, one of the things that I have a particularly strong memory of was a hike that I did in Japan with a friend of mine called the 3,333 steps. And this may come as a shock, but it is essentially 3,333 steps that go all the way to the top of a mountain where there's a shrine up there. And I did this hike the day after landing, so pretty in pretty rough shape from the jet lag. But I remember going up, and they had markers, and at the time I did not notice any, or I didn't read any Japanese numbers. And my friend is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is like 3,000. I think we only have 333 to go. We realized after the fact that what she thought was 3,000 was actually 300.
A little ways to go.
We were not nearly as far as I thought we were. But one of the distinct memories that I have of that hike is being passed every 5 to 10 minutes by somebody who is at least 60 to 80 years old. Doing just their morning trek. They did it every morning, and they just blow up and they fly down, and just that dedication to doing something like that every single day. And this was pretty far away from any city. That really inspired me, that type of dedication to a task. I think I would like to say got reflected in my books.
Very cool.
All I know is if I climb 3,333 steps, there better be an old dude in a robe at the top to teach me a dragon shout.
Here is your dragon glyph. Use it wisely. Try not to take it on Keystroke Medium while you will expose us.
Some old bald lady comes out and does this hand thing, and these portals show up, and you're like, yes, I'm in the MCU.
I knew it.
Or it's bad, and it's like Ra's al Ghul at the top, and he's like, cut this dude's head off, and you're like, let's see. Let's talk about our show sponsor real quick, and then we'll move into some other topics. Today's show sponsor is Til Valhalla by Richard Fox. It's an Ember War prequel novel, and it just came out this week. I'll put the link in the live chat after I get it brought back up on my computer. For some reason, it's not on there. Anyway, I'll read the blurb. War is a crucible. Valhalla awaits the worthy. On the battlefield of the future, armored mechs can turn, which is interesting because it's in the past. On the battlefield of the future, armored mechs can turn the tide of any battle. With a nation under threat, a single small force of armor joins the fight to hold the line against a merciless horde bent on total domination. Chief Amos Roy, a young soldier hunted by the loss of his brother to the enemy, is thrust into the fight before he's ready. War is a harsh teacher, and his fellow armor are just as wary of him as they are of the foe. When the enemy unleashes a mobile battle station with the power to annihilate cities, Roy must prove himself to veteran armor that he's worthy to fight beside them. Can battle forge a team that will stop the enemy's super weapon? For here the armor will find the iron in their hearts and the spirit to win any war, even if nothing but embers of the defiance remain. I like how he tied all that in. Til Valhalla is a military science fiction novel written by Dragon Award winning and Nebula nominated Richard Fox. Read it now. There's also a small question and answer, which is it a part of the Ember War universe, which it is, and it's a prequel series. It comes before the Ember War books proper, but you don't have to read the Ember War to enjoy this book. You can pick it up and read it whenever, and that is Til Valhalla, and it's on sale right now. I don't know why I didn't have the thing pulled up in my.
It was Skynet.
I mean, it probably was Skynet. It probably was. I can't back that up. Well, let's talk about a little bit about how you actually do your writing.
There's one other thing you have a Post-it note on your camera that I should probably handle.
Oh, good call. So hold on, let me post this in the live chat real quick while I'm thinking about it. Before I do that, post in, go buy the book. Ready, go. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, Ellen is back doing her Ask the Editor shows for Keystroke, and a new episode comes out tomorrow. Walt Robillard has joined the team, and he is helping Ellen run these shows and asking all y'all's questions to Ellen, and helping her go through that. So watch it. She's got 2 or 3 episodes out now. Another one will come out tomorrow. Watch for her posts on Facebook, because she is the editor. If you have any writing questions, any grammar questions, any editor questions you want answered,
if you want to face your word crucible and come out tested, tested, tried,
definitely do that. Check it out. It's Ask the Editor. It'll be out tomorrow on YouTube. We may put together a whole bunch and put it on the podcast stream. Probably we'll do that here pretty soon. But check it out. It's a really cool addition to the show. And Ellen said she'd cut me if I didn't mention it. So
yeah, not an idle threat. Not an idle threat. So
I'm good for another, let's see, August, September, October. I'm good for 4 months, and then after 4 months, I'm going to get shanked.
You better start worrying about it. Do some shank defense classes. Take them online.
Got my
cut
soap
and
on a
swim.
rope.
It's just that's the way it works. We're going to talk about.
Yes, let's talk about a little bit of process with Ryan tonight. We always like to kind of discuss and learn various authors' processes and how they're different. And so Scott and I have actually been doing a lot of transcribing that we picked up from a lot of our guests who kind of walk around and talk to themselves on their little microphone deal, and then transcribe it later. So what's your process when you sit down to write a book? Do you plan it all out? Like with your Nightblade series, did you plan out the 6 books before you started writing it, or are you just kind of sit down and write what comes to your mind?
I am a squirrel when it comes to writing processes.
Ooh, Scott and you are best friends.
And man, I've tried just about every different thing that you can think of. When I started out for Nightblade, I did not plan it out ahead of time. I was obviously working full time at the time, and basically all I did was I had a goal of writing 1,000 words a day, and I would figure out what those 1,000 words were going to be the night before as I was falling asleep, and I just kept doing that for about 150 days, and voila, there's a book.
So when you say, I want to break that down a little bit. When you say you came up with the words the night before, did you make notes to yourself, or did you just roll the dice and be like, it sounds like a great idea, I'm gonna remember that in the morning?
That's where the story needs to go.
Rolled the dice.
Oh man, wow. You're so brave.
Wow.
I heard a saying on another podcast one time with a writer who was scared about notes and making sure they didn't forget something, and the quote was, "The good stuff sticks." And I have generally found that to be true. It doesn't always stick immediately. It may take a few days for it to come back.
I think I read that. That's a Terry Brooks thing. I think the first person I ever read that about that's Terry Brooks's method. He said if it doesn't survive till morning, it's not worth the time. But I've found that things that survive till morning are sometimes psychotic or.
I mean, it's no guarantee of quality, but
yeah, there's something to that though, because you can't write down everything all the time, and sometimes you just gotta accept or do like this whole Stephen King thing. You know, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of have a variation on that. If I remember it once I sober up, it was probably worth it.
Once I get out of the drunk tank,
well, that thing I go magic faith tentacles on a dragon. Let's do it.
Definitely, a whole book could be made out of that. That's the spark of something great.
And they're not going to have wings either, the dragons.
The stupid wings. Wings are so cliche and flying creatures.
Oh, man. But, yeah, since then, man, I think I've tried every technique you can think of. I have planned out entire novels. The first Nightblade book of the second series, Nightblade's Vengeance, was too complicated for me to keep in my head, and so I needed to write everything out to make sure that I had it. I have deleted an entire book before, intentionally.
Ouch.
That was fun.
That's like seppuku, man. You just
I'm done writing.
Yeah, I just got to the point where I realized that in the time it would take me to fix all of the mistakes and errors that I had made, and how much the story had changed since I had originally outlined it and written it, that it would be just as fast to rewrite it. And so that's what I did.
Wow.
So I've done that. I've done everything from the walking dictation, which I absolutely love doing. It is a little bit tough in Minnesota because sometimes it gets so cold here that the words actually freeze between your lips and the recorder. And
this story sounds like icicles.
But as much as the weather permits, I like doing that.
What do you to record when you do that? Do you use a recorder or your phone or something else?
I do have a hand recorder that has a USB attachment to it, and so just a really simple, cheap thing that I got on Amazon. Walk around with that, plug it into my computer, and then I've got Dragon, and so it will. I've got it set for. Yeah, as soon as I plug it in, it'll just transcribe all the new files that are on there. And so, yeah, I definitely like doing that, but most days, if I can't do that, I'm typing. But I am also a guy who has handwritten short stories before, and so I've run the gamut.
Like on paper,
Word or Scrivener?
Yeah. Well, Scrivener, of course.
Right. Oh, okay.
First of all, he's a Sanderson junkie, and he writes in Scrivener.
Mic drop or mic swing, as it were.
I can't drop the mic, so I'll just.
We live in a strange alternate reality where there are no mic drops. If there is, and somebody probably just went to the hospital.
Wait, here, hold on.
Yeah,
do it.
Chuck's taking his shirt off.
He's a designated mic dropper, Chuck Manley, right there for you.
And this is for the audio audience. Papa Chuck just took off a shirt, and that's what you missed because you're listening on the audio feed.
Be grateful. Be very grateful.
Bill Frisbee wants to know. Bill wants to know if it's a Scrivener Mac or a real computer Scrivener.
I have them both.
There you go. See, good way to dodge that answer. That's awesome. That's what I would have done as well.
My understanding is Scrivener is much more functional on a Mac than a PC. I'm a PC guy, but I've heard Scrivener on the Mac is actually superior to Scrivener on PC.
It is. In my opinion, it is. Of course, if you don't use all of the settings, then it really doesn't matter. If you're just using it for
with Vellum, it doesn't matter now because you upload your Word document to Vellum and bam.
Yeah, I love that. Chuck's like scratching his chest while we're talking.
Let's all rub our mics.
It's my microphone.
So I'm interested in the plotting out method of your writing that you do. Have you found that one or the other works better for you, or like now? I mean, I'm assuming that you're a full-time author now, and so now you can kind of play around with different things. But have you found something that works specifically for you that now you just duplicate as you go along?
Yeah, what I've been doing for the past couple of books is I've actually been plotting essentially one act at a time and then writing it out. I have found that I enjoy pantsing a lot more than I do plotting. I find it to be a tremendously fun adventure when I don't know how the book is going to end when I start it. I know it drives some people off the wall when they think about that, but to me, that's just fun. But I have found that by outlining like one act at a time, that it helps me keep the necessary structure and keeps things from wandering and getting stuck in nonsense for a long period of time.
So I've found like I think I might be the only one in the history of ever that likes plotting more than I actually like writing.
That's not true. Most people
No,
like
I don't think that's true.
I would much rather just plot a book and not write it.
I've known lots of people that were that way.
Because you're still telling the story, and the thing is, you can tell the whole book's worth of story. I've had times where I've been like, I just like it really flowed for some reason. I got in the plot and I would write out storylines. I was doing the snowflake method, and you had the spreadsheet, and you did like 100 lines to tell the whole story. And it's just brilliant.
Yeah,
translating that into a story is where I have my problem, because then each one of those lines can be 300 words or 14,000 words. And so I come up with this book that's like 1 trillion words long if I over outline it.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion that most people who aspire to write don't really enjoy writing nearly as much as they enjoy having written. So it's harder for them to really get into the actual, the grind of getting.
I think we all have our favorite parts. Like there's certain sections of a story. Like, well, one, I like beginnings because they're fun, but there's times when characters are having interaction, and it's a scene with some action and tension, and I like these characters, and it's really easy, and that's super fun. I love writing that. But you're right. There's always a point where it becomes a little bit of work, or a metric crap ton of work. Sometimes, depending on the outline, whatever, on the deadline.
This is actually one of the reasons why I have found handwriting to be a fantastic change of pace.
Yeah.
I found that it just shifts my whole mindset, because you can't write fast. Like, if you're on deadline, like, writing by hand is horrible.
Yeah.
But what I like doing is I like doing it for short stories that I'm just doing kind of for kicks and giggles, and just being able to like slow down and be like, okay, what do I actually want this next sentence to say? And just doing that a bit at a time. And obviously it takes forever, but man, does it really help you appreciate writing a lot more than pounding things out as fast as you can.
Yeah, I actually have to purposely stop and so, because there are a lot of weeks that we mentioned NaNoWriMo earlier, and I'm over NaNoWriMo now. Like the limit, I'm at 52,000 words this month.
I almost never go under 50,000 a month anymore.
Yeah. But there are weeks that I'm just pounding words, and then I like the next day I'm like, I don't want to write any more words. And so today was actually a really nice kind of break, kind of a good meld of the two. You mentioned right at the beginning of the show, writing for a little bit and then having to go play with your daughter and all that. I'm assuming that being at the stay-at-home honor writer dad type thing, that's the way most of your days kind of work out.
Yep.
So what do you aim for in a day that is a successful writing day for you? And do you get up? So Scott and I were
day in the life.
3 or 4 in the morning sometimes to get our words.
I'm getting up at 3 tomorrow because I got to be at work by 6.
Yeah.
You are a better man than I am, sir.
I'll be tireder. Since I'll be handling firearms, I mean, what could be wrong with that? I mean,
Yeah,
really.
what could go wrong?
No, I think one of the really big things that I have learned being a stay-at-home dad and trying to balance career and fatherhood is to let go a little bit of some of my goals and maybe not killing myself quite as much as I would if given free rein. I mean, a good day for me, I still would love to be able to get 3,000 to 5,000 words a day in. But I am also to the point in my life where if I don't get that, for whatever reason, whether she wakes up early or she decides that, today's a non-nap day, I don't beat myself up about it as much as I used to. And that was a hard lesson to learn. And I was really disgruntled for a really long time. And it turns out that a 2-year-old does not care about your professional goals.
That is very true. Coincidentally,
they are in charge.
That's right.
Coincidentally, neither does anybody else.
Neither does anybody else. Yeah, nobody else does. Nobody else does either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually know an author who absolutely detests word counts, and he will not count his words. And his mindset is as long as he's doing the work and the work is getting done, then he is succeeding. And he's a full-time author, and that's, it's all well and good. But for me, I track words just so I can see that I have worked.
You can track it, you can improve it. What's the quote?
What gets measured gets
measured gets managed. Yeah,
something like that.
Like that.
I just like doing it so I can
makes it sound ugly
in my head, kind of like forecast out what I'm going to be writing and like where the books are supposed to be and where I need to be at writing them. Like I've got a deadline on the 30th of August that I cannot miss. Hi, Steve. And so
I feel your pain.
Man, there's nothing worse than the future of the company rests on you turning a book in on August 30th. Like, if I don't turn the book in on August 30th, I ruin thousands of people's lives. Maybe not thousands, but at least
a bunch. There's a lot. Yeah, that would be a crimp in their style.
So that's
in their publishing methodology.
Big motivator.
Do you find that you really thrive on that pressure and end up like writing faster and better, or does it just send you into a downward spiral of alcoholism?
So
base jumping.
Yeah.
That had start.
I'm way there already. For this book, it has knowing that I have to get there, and then again tracking word counts to know what I need to do to get there. I know I'm ahead, but I'm still pushing. But I'm a horrible procrastinator when it comes to writing, especially short stories. Like I just finished a short story for J.R. Hanley's post-apoc anthology. I remembered 3 days before the deadline was due, and I was like, and then the anthology before that, I was writing a story with Casey Azell. We were writing mirror stories, and we were literally Skyping the night, like midnight was the deadline, and we were Skyping at 10 p.m. finishing the stories so we could get them submitted before the deadline. And I've got another short story I've got to write for Walt and this RPG game, The After, that I think it's due in September 1st it's due, so I'll probably start working on it like August 25th. Just to give me a couple extra days of
2 days to think about it and what.
Yeah.
I like to make plans on days when I have really good writing days. Like you have a really amazing writing day, you're like, well, I could obviously write 5,000 words a day. It was easy today. And then then the next day the washer breaks and their house burns down or whatever, and you have to go to work. Yeah. Or I have I have a word app. I started using one called Word Keeper, and I put it in there. I'm like, oh, look, it's so nice. It's gently reminding me that I just need to write like 900 words a day to meet my goal. And then you look at it again, it's like 7,000 words a day. I get so far behind.
Yep.
Yeah. I like to get, I have to push myself, but your lesson is well told, that you do have to go, yes, you need to have goals and strive for them, but you got to be able to back off and not just go down in flames, as everybody has seen me do from time to time.
We need to have like a broadcast, like a Scott cam. We need to have a Scott cam where we like follow. It's like, you know, those movies where they put the GoPro and it's facing their face like the whole time.
Yeah, that would not be good.
We need to do that.
One, it would just be like beep, 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 every other word, beep. Me driving. My road rage could be fun, because I decided that to just profanely shout at people, because when I was a young man growing up, my dad said, you can say whatever you want inside your car as long as you keep the windows rolled up and nobody hears what you're complaining about. So, but I decided driving as I was getting angry and yelling at people and stuff like that about their bad driving, I thought, well, I can at least be creative and not just say the same swear words over and over. So I come up with some really eloquent, sometimes non-profanity, kind of like story arcs about why they're in this point in their life where they have to cut me off. And, it's a good time. It's a mental exercise. I like to do it.
I feel like you should be recording those. Like, you should turn on a recorder when you start driving.
Should be good. We have a good family friend, and she gives up road rage every year for Lent. I'm like, it's actually a really good idea. Really good idea. So
I didn't even know you could do that.
Oh yeah, you can give up anything for Lent.
And you're just driving, and you're like, "Oh, I'd be super mad at you if it wasn't Lent."
If it wasn't Lent, I would be dropping an F-bomb. Bang.
Oh, that is priceless.
Yeah. So, what do you got going on the rest of this year? What books are you writing, and how many more are you publishing this year? Because you've got 2 already out this year.
I've got 2 out this year, and I will for sure get 1 more out, potentially 2. We'll see how scheduling goes, but I am writing a 3rd book in the same world as Heart of Defiance and Relentless Souls. And that will be a good stopping point at that point. And then, I'm hoping to embark on opening up a new world that will hopefully be releasing this winter. And it is definitely a more complex, more complicated story. It's one that I've been holding on to for quite a while because I've been a little bit nervous about it. And so it may or may not come out this year. It promises to be much bigger than most of my more recent stuff has been.
I was gonna say, what makes you nervous about it?
It is probably the most. It's the most complex. It's the most complex thing that I have ever attempted, and one of my dirty secrets is I'm a terrible world builder. I essentially make up world building facts as I go along, and then just keep them in a file so I can remember them later. And this is one where that's not going to work because the world is so integral to everything that is happening. And so it's the first time where I'm like, well, I'm going to have this really cool event happening, but oh crap, I'm going to need to learn the next 10 years of backstory to figure out why this came about. And it's already resulted in the biggest outline / pre-production that I have ever done. I mean, it's a low bar to jump over, but it is far and away the most pre-work I've ever done on a story.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I listened to a guy named Mel Odom speak at Oklahoma Writers Federation Incorporated, and he talked about that there's two paradigms of world building. There's people who build the whole world and then write in, and people who build enough of the world for their story then write outward. Yeah, and then neither one of them are wrong. It just depends. Like what you're kind of in a hybrid in this, where you're setting up a lot of structure, then you're going to have to stay kind of within that. I like to build out personally because I like the discovery writing stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that too.
But I always build in.
Yeah, I always like starting with characters and conflict, and then coming up with the world afterwards. And this one, the characters and the conflict in the world are so tightly woven that they can't be separated. And so, yeah, I'm excited and nervous to start on that this fall.
Still epic fantasy.
Still epic fantasy. Yeah, I'm actually really interested in borrowing a page out of Sanderson's Cosmere universe, and because Sanderson is awesome at such things.
Sanderson is God.
But yeah, really building out a very large universe, and I'm excited to attempt it.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, good luck. I'm sure it will be fantastic.
That makes one of us.
Where can our viewers and listeners come and find more information and pick up your books at?
Amazon is always your friend. You can search my name and I will definitely pop up doing that. Otherwise, you can find me at www.waterstonemedia.net. It's usually the best place to find everything that's happening. And lacking that, you can also look up Waterstone Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and it will all come up.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
All the things. It's like magic. It really is. It's like the magic internet.
Well, we'll add those links to the show notes on YouTube and on our podcast later. And the link that I'll send you the link in Facebook so you can share the video around, as it'll be the same link.
Perfect.
Forever. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. It was fun having you on.
Man, yeah, thanks a lot. This has been fun. I'm excited to join the biking and childcare group.
There you go. I thought you said Viking and childcare group, which I think is also a very cool episode we should have.
I think we should
out for that.
We're going Viking. And
next week on the Viking biking episode of Keystroke Medium.
Yeah.
It's always great when the guest throws a callback joke in at the end of the show, because that just seals the deal.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back on after you get that massive new project underway and see how it works out for you, because that'll be interesting to see. I like having guests like talk about stuff that they are just starting or are in the process of building, and then bringing them back on. We had Nick Cole and Jason Onspach on in when was that 2015 maybe, when they first started talking about
they were talking about Star Wars, not Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't think they're allowed to use that term anymore.
Yeah. It was fun to see how their whole thing kind of evolved from what they originally planned to what it became.
I remember them saying it would be like if the stormtroopers could shoot.
Yes.
The main characters.
Yeah.
And then here we are now, years later.
Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. It was a blast. Even those who had to leave early. Silent Wolf, I'm looking at you. Maybe next week we'll do another giveaway. This is a heads up to everybody that's listening on the audio feed. If you would like to participate in the giveaway, come hang out. And I'm just kidding. You can be on the audio feed too, because we're going to do it on the Mediums roster. If you're not on the Mediums roster, go to our website, keystroke.medium.com, and then click on the Mediums tab. It's not a newsletter. We won't send you any emails unless you win. And then you'll want that email. You'll want it. And we'll be giving some stuff away through the Mediums list. And submissions closed up for our space opera anthology. So Lauren and I will be talking tomorrow about all those stories and picking and choosing the stories that go in that collection. Horizons Beyond and Kingdoms of Iron and Stone is doing really well. Go and pick those anthologies up if you have not, and support some excellent authors and the show. Everybody, again, thank you guys for coming. Ryan, thanks again, man. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
For Chuck and Scott, I left my French flute at Bandcamp Moon.
I did. I left it behind. There's a reason.
I am Josh Hayes. We have been live on Keystroke Medium. Come back next week. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.
Later, guys.
Still live, so don't